Namaste, my friend. Let us close your eyes and spend some time in contemplative meditation. Eyes are closed. Make your body comfortable, sitting in any posture. Look deep inside the forehead in the space. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Let everyone be happy. Why we think, we are reflecting on it with eyes closed. Why we ask, why we feel, why we aspire everyone should be happy. Because the happiness is our essential nature. Happiness is the essential nature of every living species on this earth planet. Why the happiness turns into unhappiness? Because we are seeking happiness where it is not located. And that is the cause of our anxiety, stress, and suffering. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve santu niramaya. May there be well-being for all. From where this idea of well-being for all comes? It comes from the real self. Everything in this universe, the ultimate cause is the pure consciousness, which is the real self. And that real self is of the nature of peace, happiness, well-being. But when we claim we are the body, we are the labels, what are those labels? I'm the father, mother. Instead of the real self, we start suffering from an emotional and a mental disease which takes us from the well-being. Why it happens? Because we are carried away by the millions of binding desires. That is our topic today. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Let everyone be blessed. When my mind, because of the likes and dislikes, gets attached to any object or detached, the mind starts experiencing an hesitation. And in that hesitation, it projects the happiness and the well-being on others and the world outside. Then what happens? The existence that brings the grace and the blessings on us, it is lost. We forget about it. We are not ready to receive the blessing. And it is because of the binding desires in our life. Ma kasche dukha bhag bhave. Ma kasche dukha bhag bhave. Ma kasche dukha bhag bhave. Let none suffer from misery in this world, no suffering at all. How it is possible? When we recognize what are the binding desires that our mind chases all the time, fills the mind with all kinds of anxiety, duality, and a conflict, hides the real self. That is the reason we have the miseries. We don't stop even for a minute, projecting our happiness and peace in the world outside. In that state, look at the breath for a while. When the breath goes in, just drop Om Shanti. When the breath comes out, just drop Om Shanti. And stop the mantra. Do nothing. Remain as it is. We did not take help of any object, any person in such a short practice. The mind needs to be educated to learn not to depend on any object in the world, any person in the world. And that we all can do as a human being. And that we don't do it. We depend on the object, person, people, event, situation outside, and that causes the emotional dependence and results into intellectual paralysis. In that state of intellectual paralysis, we are not able to think. We get engaged with the binding desires, and that continues the journey of stress, sorrow, and the suffering. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes, open the eyes inside, bring the hands down. Today's our topic, it is the fourth step. That when the binding desire rules the mind, then only we claim we are suffering. And when the unbinding desire rules the mind, there is no suffering at all. Just at the very beginning, you go to the restroom, it is an unbinding desire. And come out, you go to the kitchen, get a cup of tea and sip it. You move from one room to the other, because every action must have a desire. The thought prompts me to action. You are taking care of your pets. No binding desire. You enjoy doing it. Why? First thing, that there is no expectation. Second is, the action is complete. No thought is left after you perform an action. But in binding desires, this mind does not stay calm. It starts with anxiety, it acts in anxiety, and it completes that so-called completes the action in anxiety. Take a simple example. You wake up in the morning, mind says, oh, my son didn't come today. How much I have done for him, and he has not done. He promised me to come to me. Possibly he will come. Then I will get all the love and affection from him. Now see, one thought over the second thought and the third thought, every thought is incomplete. associated with a feeling. First, I connected to a person with a label of a mother and the son. Once the label is created, mind says, what should I do with the label? So it projects peace and happiness in that relationship. It is an imagined peace and happiness which does not exist. The mind is still in the mode of incomplete action, incomplete thought process. And because of that imagined peace and happiness, because of that expectation, the mind keeps on recycling this thought. It returns to the same. Why? It has a lot of expectations. The mind forgets peace and happiness are not located in any object, in anything outside in the world. It is our nature. So because we forget, it means I fall into ignorance. What is the way to get out of the ignorance? Asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritangamaya. Move from false to the real. Move from ignorance to wisdom. Move from the false notion that I will die to the right notion that I am immortal. Why? Because real self is consciousness. Consciousness never dies, never takes birth. That is the journey of the Eastern wisdom. Our fourth step, when the binding desire rules the mind and the life, we are into stress, anxiety, stress, sorrow, and the suffering the moment we wake up in the morning until we retire to the bed. And even after retiring to bed, the sleep is disturbed. Mind is constantly working in that imagined security of peace and happiness from an event, from a So when we say that we have to move from ignorance to wisdom, before moving from the ignorance to wisdom, we have to understand the basics of the knowledge of the Eastern wisdom. Knowledge of the science always runs after the world outside, on the object, on the process, on the technology, on the physiology, on the biochemistry, but it never wants to know who we are. So science wants to know who we are not, means it wants to know everything that is present in the material world. And the Eastern wisdom wants to know, who am I? What is my real nature? What causes me the stress and suffering? Is it possible? What is the false I and the real I? That is the journey of the Eastern wisdom. So in the step number 1, Master says that we should study, acquire, retain the knowledge of the real self versus the false I. At the very beginning, my mind should be settled in the understanding of what is the real self and what is the false I, because then only I can separate, then only I can work on the mind which creates the false I. Now you see that we have to make a clear analysis. The false I says I'm always worthy of suffering. A small pain, a small event with anyone happens in the world. Somebody did not join our birthday or celebration. Somebody joined but said nasty thing. The false I says I am worthy of suffering. I am worthy of the suffering, stress and struggle. And real I says I am of the nature of permanent peace and happiness. Love, truth and wisdom. So we continue to think, speak and act with reference to the false I, claiming it is the real I. We need to explore. We need to understand. That is the first step that we have done in last couple of weeks. So we have opposite experiences. One set of experiences is anxiety, reaction, duality, conflict, fear, a sense of insecurity, frustration. Other set of experiences is peace, happiness, love, truth and wisdom. What was happening because our mind is not aware of what is the false I, what is the real I. So it wants to extract the peace and happiness from the false I where it does not exist. That is why the first step we have to understand it clearly. What exactly is the false I? What exactly is the real I? Another point of understanding, this false I lives on likes and dislikes, attachment and detachment, joy and the sorrow, hate and the jealousy, pain and the pleasure. And the real I is totally independent of likes and dislikes, joy and the sorrow. It is not attached to anything. Do you see the light on my face? Is the light attached to my face? Or is the light attached to your face when you wake up in the morning? False I always works with the attachment and detachment. The real I is independent of it. Because the false I depends on the objects and people and the events on the world. So if that any person or object you don't like, you want to throw it away. You want to keep a distance. And if the person you dislike lives with you, it causes the loneliness. So you feel lonely even in the presence of that person because you dislike. But on the other side, the same mind likes a person who goes far away from you. That causes the loneliness. That is the problem of the false I. And that brings the sense of loneliness, frustration, anxiety and anger. But the real self is nothing to depend on anything. Before we go and understand the very nature of the real self, it is better to understand, because the mind is accumulating impressions, millions of impressions, thousands of impressions every day. Thousands of impressions every day, pertaining to the likes and dislikes, duality, conflict. And the impact of this is felt every day. I feel anxious, duality, conflict, problem. I have to understand it clearly in our relationship. Millions of impressions are already accumulated, and they trigger my mind while living in the world, in my personal, professional and social life. Journey appears to be difficult but not impossible. And that you have been committed, and that's why you got a revelation last week. When you said I have to do nothing with anyone, but with humility, with awareness. You can also say I have to do nothing with anyone. I hate them. No, you did not say that. So it was a very positive, welcome statement. I have to do nothing. Whenever they come, any relation comes, I will follow the duty as a mother, as a father, as a son, as a daughter. Let us understand a little bit about what is real self and what is, we have already understood what is the false I. The real I or the real self has 6 basic characteristics. Always remember that and remind yourself every day. First is the real self is eternal. What does it mean by eternal? It does not exist in time. What it means, it does not exist in time. It is beyond the past, present, and the future. What is its nature? It is consciousness. Also, I am consciousness, yes. What the false I says, I am the body and the mind. I am hatred and jealousy. So now, the second characteristic of the real self is the truth. Absolute truth. What it means? It is beyond time, space, and object. Anything which works in time, which exists in time, in space, and object, does not have a property of the peace and happiness. Why? Take an example of the mouse. Mouse was created by the plastic. So before that it was plastic and a chip inside. Before this, it was just a mere plastic. Then it was molded into a particular shape. You put the chip and ultimately you put the battery, it is working, and after a few weeks and months, the shape and the form will change. Anything that changes its name and the form cannot have the property of peace and happiness. My friend, you have to understand, you have to dig inside, you have to repeat it 1,000,000 times until the mind says, okay, I understood it. And that is why the real self is all pervading. There is only one consciousness everywhere, on which the world exists. On that conscious real self, which is consciousness, on which the mind and body exist. Real self is of the nature of peace, permanent peace and happiness. Nature is knowledge, nature is peace, nature is happiness. It cannot be undone. False I, it does not have a nature of peace and happiness. That's why it is seeking outside, it is expecting outside. So in the first step, the master says we have to study daily. Study daily doesn't mean that you have to read a book. Study daily that you listen and learn, and then you contemplate and reflect. You remind your mind again and again that I am the real self, and followed by the practice. We have already discussed listening and learning from a teacher. Repeat listening and learning by yourself, contemplation and reflection. Then you find a change in attitude for a time being, and you see how that attitude works in daily life, and if it is working in the daily life, followed by the practice. And the step 2, why the step 2? The step 2 says that we should become aware of our duties, and we should not fail in performing our duties daily. Why? It keeps the false I at bay. What do you mean by the duty? that I'm supposed to do what is right and good. Why the second step was given? Because we have to live in the society. We have to interact. There is no chance. We have to interact with the people, object, people, situations. So the Master is not saying what you work. Master is saying how, with what attitude you should work in the world. Whether you are with your siblings, whether you are with your kids, whether you are with your pets, whether you are living at home or working in the office, my attitude should be different. As the attitude we have in the mind, so our behavior is action, thought, and speech and action. And if the attitude is guided by the real self, our behavior and expression creates favorable condition in our life. And if it is guided by the false I, it creates unfavorable condition, anxiety, duality. That is the only difference between the two. That is why I told you before also, and think of it, every time you are in anxiety, reaction and duality, did anyone send me the SMS message or called me to be into anxiety and upset? The answer is no. No one sends me the message. Then why I experience that? From where it has come? From inside my head. What is inside my head? My mind has accumulated millions of those impressions and it triggers. False I takes over me. What should I do? I should perform my duty. We should do our duty, means the role we need to play in the world. With our parents, children, employee, boss, society and the nation. You are always free if you are driving within the range of the speed limit. There is no problem. But if you overspeed, you are breaking the law. Same thing applies. I am with my son, so let me act as play a role of the father in the state of the happiness. So I start with the happiness, ends with happiness. That is the duty. So every time before you act in the world, become aware, remind yourself, this is, you think, this is my duty I have to do. I should definitely do it, whatever the situation outside. It's little challenging, but the moment you are doing the duty you need to do, you are supposed to do, the nature embraces you with the love. The nature rejects anxiety, frustration and duality in the mind. What about others if they continue to be? That is their nature. You are doing your duty. You are doing your duty in every day with people, relationship. It helps you to purify your mind. It keeps your emotional dependence on check. You don't get sensitive and emotional. It opens the gate to the intellect for a wider and a greater knowledge. So here is a catch, a simple way. The second step is that let me of a giving nature. Nature always gives. The way the sun never sends us the bill, the air and the space and the water never sends us. It's a municipality that sends us the bill. Air we breathe. We are sleeping soundly. We don't know whether we will be alive but still that air continues to send that air into our body. Can we have that attitude? That attitude is meaning I am doing my bounden duty. I simply become aware. I'm not carried away by the attachment, likes and dislikes and preferences. Second step, that we are removing the ignorance. So in the step 3, why the step 3? So the step 3 is now we should know how to identify with the existence and dedicate all actions to quieten and focus the mind. When you are in a giving nature, you crush your false I. You do not remain as a doer and the experiencer because of your bounden duty that you are performing. Oh, that's my duty. I need to do my duty. So there is no question of building your false I. There is no doer. But when the doer is not there, the experiencer is not there, then our crazy mind and the false I get scared what to do. That is why we have a third step. We are going a little deeper. When the false I is absent, which has been with us for years and years together, we find a kind of an emptiness, a sense of blankness. So the Master says, hold on to that emptiness, hold on to that blankness where the mind says you are nothing, you are nothingness, you are emptiness. Because that is the state we want, to find the inner self. We need not to worry about it. When you practice meditation, it may happen. The practice that I gave you. So what happens, instead of the false I acting as a doer and the experiencer, now it is the inner self which is different than the false I. You discover that. It is present all the time, in all the situations, in all the relations, even with the friends and enemies. It is always inner self. There is a presence you feel, oh, this is what it is. A presence, a consciousness. That is what we are heading to. What is this inner self? I was looking at this Discovery Channel. An alligator catches the prey, that was the deer, holds it into the jaws, and then the alligator moves in a cycle very fast. So the prey gets totally unconscious and dies. That very intelligence, that very consciousness present in the alligator is the same which is present in me, because we are given an ability to understand in the intellect. They do not have a free intellect. They do not have a choice. We have a choice. But consciousness is the same. That consciousness is the knowledge and the intelligence is present. That is the same behind every change. There must be a doer of that change. Who is the doer? Is it the inner self? You have to listen to it again. When we are living in ignorance, we feel as if I am doing everything, I am a doer, and that is the false I. But when we do the meditation practice, we contemplate and understand, we find it is happening because of the inner self. The inner self is the doer. That inner self never changes. That inner self never changes. So another point of understanding, the false I keeps on changing, the real I, the inner self never changes. How can we say that the false I keeps on changing? You wake up in the morning, your mood swings, and you say, I'm stressed. After 2 hours, you take a cup of tea, you say that I'm relaxed. Now, that I, which was upset, now it is relaxed. In the afternoon, it gets frustrated. Then it is angry and agitated. So there are many I's. That is the false I. We use minimum 5,000 false I's every day. And it has been happening days and weeks and months and years, and that accumulated as an impression, and that repeats itself. That is the ignorance. We need to remove it. That is the ignorance. We need to remove it, my friend. So that is why we had the second step that we offer. We become a giving nature, to give a shot, to crack the false I, to perish the false I. That false I sits in the wealth, sits in the relationship, sits in the pleasure, imagined pleasure, sits in the imagined happiness in relationship, imagined, which is not there. That is the work of the false I. So as long as the mind is sitting outside, it will build ego, it will strengthen ego, it will create unfavorable situation, anxiety, duality, and a conflict. So the step 3 comes here. It replaces ego with a higher vision in your life. What is the higher vision? I'm looking at the inner self that is already present. I have felt that presence of the peace and happiness and the joy, independent of any object in the world, any relationship. I have to replace the false I with that inner self. That is what the third step is. Every progress is made by that inner self. So anytime you are doing meditation, you contemplate and reflect, you find that there is a change, and that inner self is independent of everything in the world. So once we follow the third step, replacing that false I with the inner self, to replace that we need a tremendous strength and a tremendous focus and a total peace and happiness. Otherwise that false I, like a lion cub, behaves like the cows. A lion cub was lost in a forest, raised by the cows, or you can say buffaloes. As a young lion, he behaved like a buffalo because he was not aware of his real nature. He was born and brought up, raised by all the buffaloes. So he started behaving like the buffaloes. He used to run like the buffaloes when the lion is chasing, when the cheetah is chasing, or the leopard is chasing, the hyenas are chasing. One day the adult lion saw this. How come the lion cub is with the buffaloes? Why he is behaving like the buffaloes? Why he is eating the grass? The adult lion was a teacher. One day he chased the lion cub, pushed him, and brought him near the bank of a river. Suddenly the lion cub saw his face, then he looked at the adult lion. He saw his face, looked at the adult lion. Sooner he did, the adult lion roared like. The lion cub also started roaring. He realized his own nature. He became the lion again. Was he not the lion before? Yes, he was. Am I not the real? Are we not the real self before? Yes. So what is holding me? False I. What to do? We have already covered the 3 steps. What the lion cub did to can I say he became the lion again? He was not the lion before. He was lion before. So we are already real self. We are already of the nature of peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. What we have to do, remove the ignorance. How to remove that ignorance? By listening and learning all these principles and applying them. So what the adult lion did, that he helped the lion cub to recognize. What is that recognize? The lion cub was wearing a label of buffalo. So did he remove? That is ignorance, because in ignorance we create false notion. I believe you are understanding. There was no covering on the lion cub of a buffalo. It was only misunderstanding, the wrong notion. He was living in ignorance, and the adult lion removed that ignorance inside the head, and he roared and he became a lion again. So it's a false statement that he became a lion again. He was already a lion. So that is why we say tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, moving from the ignorance to wisdom, ignorance to knowledge of who am I. But then there is a problem in the world. What is the problem? To remove that problem, we have the 4th step. As long as we are working with the binding desires, the false I will continue, unfavorable condition, anxiety, duality, and a conflict will continue. So we have millions and millions of desires every day. We recognize hardly 5 or 6 or 10 desires every day in our mind. Other millions of desires, they keep on prompting and triggering the mind, that makes my mind upset, anxious, mood swing, etc., etc., etc. So the Master says, understand the binding desire and the unbinding desire. You have some desire, you get upset, frustrated, it is binding desire, caused by the likes and dislikes. So I have to revisit that desire. Should I take care if my son enters my house? Yes, I should take care. Should I expect peace and happiness? No. Should I give peace and happiness? Yes, that is our 3rd step. You're always in the mood of giving, nature of the peace, to whatever the situation, condition. So that is unbinding desire. You have an unbinding desire to share your love, your care, your happiness, your knowledge to anyone and to everyone. Why? To give a kick to the false I. Otherwise, the the binding desire will return again. It will build the false I. It will break your relationship with the inner self. Binding desire strips the wisdom, creates the conflict in me with the world. So what happens? We start fighting with our own behavior and attitude. Whenever we have a binding desire, we start fighting with our own behavior and attitude. That makes you upset, that makes you anxious. Another tries to comfort, but it never happens. You come down for a while and the same thing returns again. It is only because of the ignorance. Remember, lion cub did not have a covering of the buffalo. It was only in the head, the wrong notion, misplaced understanding. So binding desire creates a lot of misplaced understanding. We already discussed, if I remind you what exactly is the desire, and then we will understand what is binding desire and what is unbinding desire. Desire means a thought. Desire means a thought. In that thought, mind is seeking something other than you. Desire is a thought. In that thought, I am expecting, seeking something else other than me. So what is other than me? The world. And what is present in the world? I am seeking people, place, object, event. That is the first thing. Then what happens? The moment my mind seeks that person, it plants a fake happiness in that event, people, place. Because it is moving outside. So that imagined happiness, peace and joy and the love is what the expectation, attachment and duality is. That is what we say. The false I or the mind has a desire. Desire means a thought. In that thought, your thought says that let me seek something outside to get peace and happiness. So that seeking and projecting happiness on a person and event where it is not so, the result obviously is unfavorable condition, hesitation, excitement, stress, sorrow and the suffering. The hesitated mind to seek something outside hides my real nature and hides our peace and happiness. So internally, at the level of the inner self, I am still in peace and happiness, but it is overpowered by the false I. Look at me, how much suffering I am because of, and we start blaming. Never do that. That is why the binding desire and the unbinding desire. You see, there is one thing. So the false I becomes the doer inside, and that false I waits for the result of an action, the fruits of my imagined happiness in the relation. It is imagined happiness. The result will never be happiness. No. When I love someone and he or she reciprocates, I feel that you feel the pleasure, you don't feel the happiness. Can you tell me, or can anyone tell me that their mind has continued experience of happiness with any person in the world, including the honey, including the relations, anyone in the world? Answer is no. Mind changes its stand. So it is an imagined happiness, and that is why it is a binding desire. Binding desire builds the ego around the object or a person, and then without any reason it gets agitated. We never allow the mind to think, in front of the son I am a father, in front of the honey I am a husband, in front of you I am a teacher. Let me play my role well, with a tremendous focus. Let me enjoy playing my role, my duty. You see, my duty is your responsibility. You are a seeker. My duty is your responsibility. Your duty is to listen, learn with a focus and a commitment and sincerity and a tremendous power, will to change is your duty and my responsibility. That is why we are together. That is one of the most intimate, close relationship. Don't take intimate something wrong. It does not have a wrong. It is the relationship between consciousness and consciousness. Every day, every time you listen to these principles and your mind is enlightened, the mind is inspired and motivated. That is what does it mean by the intimate and a close relationship. So my master used to say that two sets of desires should continue until the death. You continue listening and learning every day without fail. Never leave the practice. So when you continue to listen and learn with a commitment, with a goal to transform, it is known as the satsang. Satsang is a Sanskrit word which means company of the truth. That results in the self-discovery. Why listen and learn every day? If you don't do it every day, the false I with the mind, with the millions of impressions, will take over the mind again. That is why you used to tell me before, no, I have a problem, I am not able to reach to that state. Remedy is the commitment. Remedy is the commitment to yourself. The moment you wake up in the morning, you say, I am committed to sit in understanding these principles, then sit in meditation, and after that I will do anything. Why? We need to get rid of the false I. Listen and learn and reflect again and again. So once you have done in the morning, and then you live into that temperament, that state of the mind. Anytime the anxiety comes, your mind says, no, it is because of the false I. Let me check the thought pattern, where the thought is leading me to. This thought is leading me to the imagined pleasure and happiness which is not available. Hold on. That is known as the discernment and dispassion. You instantly attack on these thought which contains the wrong notion, and that leaves you in the peace and happiness. It is easy if we are committed. It is very difficult if sincerity is not there. And that makes us a seeker. That makes us a seeker, and that helps us a seeker, and that helps us to live into that state of peace and happiness. So be very clear about these 4 steps. First step, clear understanding of the real self and the false I. Second step, doing our duty. I develop a giving nature. Contributor, not a consumer. Why? To give a bigger jolt to the false I. The false I is always looking for. It is always looking for consuming, and what to consume. It wants to consume peace and happiness. Where it is not there. It is not there. And the third step, then we are able to discover that inner self and the inner presence. But even after discovering that inner presence, there is a sense of mind keeps on repeating the binding desire. Still it seeks. It wants to check us if we are still weak. So it prompts you with a particular thought. Oh, that guy, I did so much and he did not. Well, just a casual thought. And when it repeats a couple of times, then we are already into the stress and the suffering. This is what happens in our life. We need to change. It is because of that I discussed about that merits and demerits are there. Binding desire always create demerit. What are the demerit? Unfavorable condition, anxiety, reaction, duality, etc., etc. Whereas the unbinding desire, it will create favorable situation, peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. It takes time. With that commitment, if we are doing it, it will work. It has to work. It is working. It worked for thousands of people. Not thousands, but millions for the last 10,000 years of the history of the Eastern wisdom. Buddha did it. Jesus did it. Confucius did it. They applied the same principles. My friend, be happy, keep smiling.